Hey, this is Bruce Boudreau, and you're listening to Empty Betters with Nick, Mack, and Harrison.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to episode 155 of Empty Betters. I'm your host, Harrison Scholes. I'm going to toss across the screen to my co-host, Nick Manella. What's going on, my friend?
What's up, dude? Happy to be here with you guys on this lovely sunny Tuesday here in Maryland. It is absolutely disgusting. Got a whole mix of rain, freezing rain today. So yeah, but happy to be here talking some hockey. I know we got the All-Star break coming up, so let's get into it.
For anyone watching on YouTube, I think you would agree with me if you're even a casual soccer fan. Nick, you got a little Zlatan Ibrahimovic vibe going on with
Got
the
the
ponytail, the facial hair.
Yeah, got the pony going today, got the facial hair, and then I came built with the nose. So we're just following in his footsteps today.
Widow's Peak is strong too. Yeah, I can definitely see it. Like a video game character almost of him.
I'll take it. I mean, that dude's a stud.
Absolutely. Also, just another note on the weather. It's definitely colder where Mac is at this moment. Get to him in a sec. And also, if you live in the South, apparently it's like winter storm of the ages, and like kids can't go to school because it's windy and shit. So, have fun with that one. But now I'm gonna toss it across the screen to my co-host up in Wisco, Mac Vogel. How we doing?
Boys, I'm not gonna lie, I'm feeling pretty great. It's been 6 degrees, feels like -6 for the last like 48 hours, but that means one thing and one thing only to me. It is officially ODR season. Got my first skate in on an outdoor rink of this winter last night. Had the whole thing to ourselves, me and my buddy Matt. Went out there about 6:45, 7 p.m. Stayed out till about 9:30, almost 10, something like that. It's cold, but once you start skating around a little bit, it warms up real quick. We were even taking off our jackets and stuff and just skating around with the hoodie and the jersey around. So but no, that just puts me in a good mood. And yeah, all day at work today, I just couldn't think about anything other than hopefully getting back on later tonight. So
Yeah, you posted and sent us some great snaps of that. It looked like it was an awesome rip the other night.
yep, it's a good rink, and I live literally like 2.5 blocks away from it, so it's just shooting around the corner in the car and
Oh, that's
trekking through the
awesome.
field to get to the rink. But it's awesome. Yeah.
I'm very jealous of that. Very jealous of that indeed. All right. Well, we got the All-Star game coming up this weekend, as Nick just mentioned. A little bit of a quieter week in the NHL. I think games will probably, I think the last game is today as you're listening to this before the break, if I'm not mistaken. So things slowing down a little bit. Not a whole lot of gambling stuff to touch on, given that there's no action coming up this week. So that segment will most likely be skipped here. But we do have some news to talk about, a blockbuster trade on Long Island, couple discussion points, and then we'll do a quick State of the Union, and we'll be out of here. But before we start, question of the day presented by Brackish Life. If you're like us and grew up on the water and outdoors, then Brackish Life is perfect for you. They have a wide selection of gear from UV shirts to hoodies and hats to Real Bay apparel made by Real Bay people. Head to www.brackish.life today to check them out. A little salty, a little fresh, Brackish Life. I've been on a little bit of a, what's the word you want to say? Traffic jihad, I guess would be the best way to put it. So I am presenting today's question of the day. My question, and Nick, you and I briefly talked about this a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you remember. What is your biggest traveling pet peeve? Now, driving like to work counts as traveling for this question. I would even say pushing a grocery cart would count in as this question.
Oh,
Just something where it involves people to understand that they have to manipulate their body to get around, or something they're like pushing or pulling.
something that requires other people to have situational awareness.
Yes.
Which is you never want to be in a situation like that because they will never have the
Never.
situational
I don't think
awareness
it's
that you
ever
would think
happened.
they should. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would ask you two, what's like your biggest pet peeve with like traveling?
So right off the bat, I'm inclined to do like airport stuff here. I'm thinking like whether it's like the asshole in security that is like in like a full suit and has to take off their belt and their watch and undo their shoes, and who is just like, you've clearly never been on an airplane before. Or Harry, you and I have talked at length about this, what I refer to as the moron parade, which is getting off of an airplane, which should be the most simple thing to do. You know, you think that how many times in elementary schools did we have to line up like in a certain order by the door before we could leave the classroom? Like your teacher would make you do that. And for some reason, people get on an airplane and the second the plane lands, they feel the need to stand up and start moving around.
That one's bad too, because it's like a pretty common pet peeve. And so I feel like everyone's either the guy who does it or the guy who hates it. And there's no in between. Like I'll be on a plane and I'll see one guy get up and like, you know, jump as quick as he can to get a couple steps ahead or whatever. And I've seen other people get like visibly mad at him, like literally be like, oh, look at this fucking guy. Like it causes immediate tension and people get yelled at. And yeah, it's hectic.
It's bad. I mean, like if you're someone who's like older, you got knee problems, you got back problems, and you need to stand up when the plane lands, that's fine. I'm totally there with you. Sit in the aisle seat then.
Yeah.
Or just, you know, stand or crouch a little bit, whatever. You can stretch your legs a little, but you don't need to be in a big hurry.
I literally like, I don't take my AirPods out. I don't like move when the plane lands until the like 2 rows in front of me has started to get up and move, and then I'll pull my backpack up and think about, you know, getting up or something. But
as it should be. And that's like somehow like a uncommon thing. I will purposely sit until the person right in front of me is ready to go, and I can see it drive people nuts. Like, why isn't he grabbing his bag? I'm like, I don't have to grab my fucking bag. Like this is called an assembly line. You were taught that in kindergarten. Like, God, it drives me nuts.
So I've got 2 of them that come to mind. One, because you said the grocery store thing, and I feel like I've talked about both of these at some point on the pod before, but I'll run through them quick anyway. Number 1, grocery stores, especially like Costco, Costco or something like that. I really, really think that people should be required to take like a moving through space 101 course or something like that, because it's just unbelievable how like you can just be like driving your little grocery cart like normal, and there's just people like looking around and, oh, I'm going to stop right fucking here in front of you and you're right behind me. I didn't even see it. Like, fuck, have some awareness. Like, look around. It's not that hard. But yeah, of course it is that hard for these
totally
people.
with you on this one. And I feel like I have the worst luck for this, not necessarily at Costco, because if it requires me to just walk away from you, I'll do it just to not have to deal with the idiocy. But whenever I'm in like a supermarket, grocery store, I am flocked by old people literally driving their cart into my ankle. And I'm like, I finally snapped one time. I was like, if you want to reach through me, just say, excuse me, and I'll get out of the fucking way. Like, it's really not that hard.
It's also even worse, in my opinion, when you're like, let's say this used to happen to me all the time. I'd be like at like a department store or like a grocery store with like my mom, or even worse, my grandma, and like they do it too. And I'm like, I do not want to be associate, or I'll be like, Mom, come on, like, Mom, move. They're trying to get like
focus.
You see this guy? He's trying to get the fucking yogurt. Just like stop standing there in front of the yogurt. Oh God, it's brutal. But the other one, and I've definitely talked about this one. This is a car one. When you're merging onto a highway, when you're going on the on-ramp, a lot of times there's the little like double signal thing, and you have to stop at it if you're the only car going. Like, let's say it's usually like a little side-by-side 2-lane situation.
Right. Let's
say like one car is driving in front of me, and then there's me, and it's just us two. I'm going at like, you know, not full speed, but a fast enough speed to merge onto the highway, because I don't think he's going to stop, because he shouldn't. As soon as you get there, it turns green. Even if you just keep going, it turns green as you go through.
Right.
So just go. I've almost gotten in like accidents because of this, because I'll just be going, and then they're like, oh, there's a stoplight. And they like come to a full stop, and they're like, oh, what do you know? It turned green right when I fucking stopped. No, don't stop. Keep driving your goddamn car.
And that's
and
like
don't get rear-ended by me.
That's a traffic nightmare too, because now you're you're 40 miles an hour slower than you need to be
Yes.
going, merging onto the highway, which is just a
Exactly.
disaster.
It's one thing if there's a bunch of cars there and it's like, then they got to do the thing where you
Right.
take turns or whatever. And that's annoying in and of itself. But it's like, okay, at least we kind of know how to do that part. But like,
Yeah, that one's 50-50.
well, not even though, because they like it's pretty obvious. It goes like this lane, that lane, and then like the HOV lane gets like 2 or whatever. And it's like pretty easy to figure out the pattern. And these people are like, gee, I wonder which one's going to turn green next. Like, I have no fucking idea. And then they're not ready when it's their turn. And that one's brutal.
That was a really good little grind my gears segment right there. I like that.
Yep.
I think you guys have taken a couple of mine. I know, Nick, we definitely have the airplane shared one. Mac, I'd echo the grocery store one. So I have one idea, and then I'm going to give my one giant rant that I have officially kinged the king of traffic rants. Idea. This would only apply to like superstores, like Costco, like Walmart. I don't know if they have
BJ's.
mega targets.
BJ's, Sam's Club, yeah.
Yeah, like all those like wholesale stuff. So, like we all talked, especially during COVID, about like, supporting small businesses and shit. So I would say, and I don't know if I'm in favor of this, but I could see a world where maybe one day this is a thing. They actually they have like a route for supermarkets that are like mega stores where it's like you have to be on this side of the aisle if you're like walking straight, and it's like traffic. Like you literally, it's like a double yellow.
Have you ever been to an Aldi?
Yes.
It's kind of like that.
A little bit like that.
Like you can't go like it.
Yes.
You can't really go like the other way in an Aldi, if that makes sense.
My mom loves Aldi, so trust me, I've been there a bunch. Yeah. It's the closest thing to what I'm describing, but here's why I say this. One, for the people who don't get all like super pissed off, like you can't route me in a grocery store, they would be inclined to go to maybe like a farmer's market or somewhere that is like a little smaller and like
and more loiter friendly.
Yes, and now
for the people that want to get in, get out, and go the fuck home like me, this is better.
Yeah, like but if you're still going to go to the superstore, now you actually have to follow the rule. And like, you can't just be an asshole who's like the one who's like cutting across and doing all this. I don't know if I'm for that. It's just something I thought about.
Boys, maybe we just need to all start Instacarting or something. It seems like we shouldn't be going out in public.
I'm surprised that no one has brought up Trader Joe's in this conversation, because that is by far the worst. There is no traffic flow in those stores.
I don't go to Trader Joe's because the one in Kenilworth, like in Towson,
a worst parking lot of all time.
It's dude, you can't even get within 5 feet of the parking lot to park in the parking lot to step foot in the store. It's a nightmare, complete nightmare. Anyways, king of kings for traffic nightmares, dude. Like, it's 2023 and we're still rear-ending people. We got cars that drive themselves. We've got like side mirrors that can detect if Houdini is on your right. Like, you can't rear-end someone. It's the most preventable accident, and it's a direct.
The cars brake for you now.
Yes, it's a direct result of you tailing someone. That's what it is. You can't rear end someone if you're at least like.
I got a 32-year-old Jaguar halfway down 95 that didn't have rear brakes, and I didn't rear end anyone. Like,
it's tailing, but I think honestly, more so than not, I think it's just fucking idiots not paying attention. Like they're looking at their phone or the fucking radio or whatever,
changing music.
And the next thing they're in the stop and start traffic, and they're looking down at their phone or whatever. And next thing they know, they look up and fuck, the car's right there. Bang. Like.
It's like when we were in Milwaukee, I was saying this to you guys. I was like, I keep getting ads for like this device that turns your CarPlay into something that lets you play Netflix on it. It's like,
how's that?
That's
safe?
Not okay.
Yeah, like it's too much. And the reason this all happened, I've been a part of 3 traffic jams in the last 4 days, which is more than I can remember in any recent memory. And like, I don't have to drive too much, luckily. I was going home on Saturday, parking lot on 695 on a Saturday at like 7:30. It's like
it's so typical.
It's like a 12-car accident because of a rear end. I sat in park for 55 minutes in the middle left lane. I was losing my mind. Today, on the way to work, I don't have to take Pulaski Highway, but people on my team have to take Pulaski Highway. They live like 10 minutes from the office. They got to work at 10:30 because some asshole rear-ended someone. The guy got road rage, tried to shoot the guy that fucking rear-ended him. Cops come. Then the cops, like, are trying to like detain the guy or whatever. The guy tries to like run his car into the cop. Then the cops have to shoot the guy. It's a whole shit show.
Oh my
It's just like,
God.
it's insane. And then on the way home, there's a traffic jam right outside of my little street, right? If any of you are familiar, a lot of roller hockey guys out here, Honeygo Boulevard, the court I'm talking about. Right there, you make that little right onto 43. It's a nightmare. Every time it's jammed up, another rear end. I've seen 3 rear end traffic jams just cause my life harm in the last 4 days. So that's presented the question of the day and why I wanted to talk about traffic.
I will say I have noticed like a lot of the rear ends in Baltimore that I see happen are because assholes just that are walking will just step in front of moving vehicles, and the person is just forced to either run someone over or get rear-ended. So
yep, no, you're right. Jaywalking's pretty big here. But yeah, that was the question of the day presented by Brackish Life, which has nothing to do with traffic. So there you go. All right, let's hop into the league news. Man, what a transition. That was smooth, eh?
If you're one of the people who's causing problems in our traffic pet peeves, you should go swallow a bunch of brackish water. How about that?
Excellent.
Very nicely done. All right, teddy bear toss, Hershey Bears. At Sunday's game, the Hershey Bears set a new record. The fans donated 67,309 stuffed animals, breaking the previous record by nearly 15,000 bears or animals. The event also resulted in a generous donation to the Children's Miracle Network at Penn State Health Children's Hospital. And all in all, great night. It always is every year. Especially if you live in the DMV area and PA, all about this annual tradition. Nick, what were your thoughts on this?
I thought this was great. I mean, first and foremost, that's a cause that you and I have contributed to multiple times, both with, financially and with our time, with our fraternity back in college. That was our philanthropy that we would donate to. Kind of funny how this one went down. I know, Mac, you were talking about this before we hopped on as well. So I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, I was reading about this. This was a very strange situation. For those that don't know, teddy bear toss, correct me if I'm wrong, but usually it's like the first goal, right?
First home goal.
First home goal that is scored is when all the bears come out and you throw them all. And it takes a significant amount of time to get, it's not like a hat trick where it's like maybe 5 minutes and then you're back.
No, it's like 20 or 30 minutes.
No, it's like a 20 plus minute delay to like get all this shit off. And there's, they usually let like media flood the ice to get some pictures, and usually all the players are jumping in the bears and kind of. Bears did not score a goal in this hockey game. So, first couple periods go by, it's no goals for the Bears after 2, and everyone's sitting in the stands kind of sweating it out. Like, all right, well, what the fuck? Like, what happens if they don't score? Everyone's holding their bear. Like everyone in there is just holding their bear, or their whatever stuffed animal they got. And I think what ended up happening is with like a minute left or something like that in the third, it was still, or like 2 minutes left, something like that. It was still no goals for the Bears. And over the PA, they said, they were like, please do not throw your bears on the ice like until the game is over, at least.
Oh, okay.
Because if you do it like while the game's going on, there's only a minute left right now. Like it's gonna like take forever to disturb it. And like the Bears were gonna pull their goalie, and I think they were losing 2-0 if I'm not mistaken. They were gonna try and like tie the game with like 2 or 3 minutes left, and specifically. And 2, they were like, we don't want to like squash any momentum that they get. Cause like, picture this, it's 2-0, right? Let's say they score 1 goal and there's like a minute left. You want to get that face-off going quick and try and tie it because you got some momentum.
Right.
You don't want to have this whole bear thing happen, have a 20-minute delay, and then be like, oh yeah, by the way, there's still a minute left and we're down by 1. Like,
and we've played 59 minutes of hockey and no one's legs are there. So
anymore. Basically the PA announcer's trying to like explain all of this. And some of the people on Twitter that were at the game are like, you could just hear a collective like, boo, like fuck you guys. Like as soon as he announced that, everyone's pissed and people are probably drunk. It's the end of the game. And so there was a whistle with like literally like 6 seconds left in the game or something like that, and like a face off in like the I think they're playing the Sound Tigers, Tigers offensive zone or whatever. And like one guy just threw the bear, and then everyone was like, I'm throwing my bear. Like,
it's like the food fight in like a high school cafeteria. It just takes like that one apple to be like pelted against the wall, and then
that was all with 6 seconds left.
Yep, there was only 6 seconds left, and they didn't finish the game. They did not complete.
Just call the game. Yeah, I mean, you gotta use common sense sometimes.
I would just drop the puck with all the stuffed animals on the ice, just so you can see like guys lining up like 5-on-5.
The other thing is, though, apparently some of the Bears players were kind of upset initially with how like the fans were like handling it, because they were just like booing the team a little bit too, or whatever, and being like, "Oh, you guys suck, you didn't score a goal," or whatever.
It's Bear night.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't get there's kids and shit. Like
I know. It turned into a little bit of a mess. So it's kind of funny that they ended up like breaking the record and like a good thing came of it. But like all in all, like people in the stadium were not very pleased with like
that. Just tells us that like the goaltending is just that good there, boys. Come on.
Right. Well, no, and like I said, normally the players get to have a bunch of fun with it and dive in the pile of bears. Like apparently most of them just like got off the ice and were like, fuck this. Like this sucks. A couple of them, I think, still were like, I don't fucking care. We're doing it anyway. So, but
it definitely is like more exciting when like you see them score, and then like from the broadcast, you just see stuffed animals like raining onto the ice. I did see. Did you see the video of like this bear had to weigh like 60 pounds? Like it took like 6 people to walk it down like the steps, and then they're trying to like hoist it. They're trying to hoist it over.
I saw that. Yeah,
that's wild. Yeah, I don't think I've seen that clip. I'll definitely need to check it out. Pretty wild night in Hershey, it sounds like. So thank you, Nick and Mac, for those details. That's pretty cool. Bo Horvat. On Empty Betters, we lead with Hershey Bears news and lead the blockbuster trade for second.
We're going in order here on most important. So.
Exactly. World records with teddy bears thrown or Bo Horvat to the island. Which one do you care about more? Dean, if you're listening, I know you're punching the steering wheel. Bo Horvat traded to the New York Islanders. Big trade. Anthony Beauvillier, grade A prospect, Atu Ratti, and a 2023 first-round pick, which I know is protected in some fashion. Frank Saravelli tweeted about that today. We'll get to that in a second. Initial thoughts. The Isles, they're I think a couple points out of a wild card 2 spot. They're right there with the Sabres, the Pens, the Caps, all fighting for that wild card spot. Nick, what are your initial thoughts with Horvat going to the island?
Initial thought, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. My gut reaction here is that in 5, maybe not even 5 years, maybe 2 years, Vancouver will win this trade.
I agree.
My gut reaction is, holy shit, the Islanders actually got like a big name in a trade.
That too. I'm also very surprised they gave up Beauvillier. I mean, giving up a first-round pick and a prospect like this guy is a big deal, but that guy was the heartbeat of your team. Let's think about that. I know everyone's talking about like, oh, the Canucks traded their captain. How can you do that? That's all I heard on Pardon the Interruption tonight. I'm like, well, why does that matter? If it's a deal, it's a deal.
Yeah, that's not the story here, especially given what the Canucks season has been. It doesn't really matter, captain or not. But what is the story is what you're talking about here. I mean, that's like Matt Barzal's best friend. And that's like definitely a big like kick in the balls in the locker room. Like, I don't care how good of a player you get in return. It's definitely a little bit of a knock the wind out of you situation, at least initially. They're all professionals. They've been through this before. So you would think once this guy gets playing and they can kind of see his stuff and hopefully, he's successful and all that, then, they'll come to terms with it. But yeah, initially it's probably pretty hard to hear, especially not during trade deadline season. It's kind of just like an out of nowhere thing right before the All-Star game. You don't always see trades like that happen, big ones anyway, right before that. So, yeah, it's interesting. I also saw a lot of Isles fans on Twitter saying, like, as much as they love Anthony Beauvillier, they think that he had kind of like plateaued a little bit.
Okay.
And that it was time. Like, I saw a lot of people being like, love the guy to death, and hopefully a fresh start for him somewhere else will like allow him to shine more.
Like maybe you're kind of like maximizing his value by this point now.
Yep. That's what they were saying.
Dean, I was texting with Dean about something else earlier today. And then this came up like right as we were talking. He's like, yeah, like it's unfortunate. Like I love the guy, but it's kind of time. Um, I think two things that a lot of people are not considering here, especially if you're a casual. One, Horvat is a pending free agent. So
Yes.
if he doesn't sign with the Islanders, which I have to imagine Lou Lamoriello being Lou
You would think
Lamoriello,
we've got
he's got
contract coming here like in the next
yeah.
month.
I don't
There's
think he's
no way you give all that up and he's a rental, right?
exactly
Like that would be embarrassing.
That'd be very embarrassing. So they definitely need to sign him to a long-term deal. I mean, he's in the midst of a career year. To put it in perspective, his best offensive year of his career, 2018, 2019, he had 27 goals and 61 points in 82 games. He'll probably pass that here in the next week or so. He's got 54 points and 31 goals in 49 games right now. So he's on fire. And then the other part of this trade that I think is really interesting, Atu Ratti. I think that's how you say his first name. Atu.
I think so.
This guy's like a grade A tier 1 prospect.
This is blue chip right here.
Yeah. So this guy's going to be a bona fide, top 6 elite NHL player, most likely. So the Canucks get a little younger. They get that first round pick. Again, I know there's some protection laws around that. I don't know exactly what they are. I haven't looked, to be honest with you, but an interesting trade. And Nick, I kind of agree with you. The Islanders are not the team that I thought Horvat was going to go to. They're not really like,
and like I kind of think it's funny. Like Mac, you said like the Islanders finally did something. It's like, well, it's like finally bringing in the superstar, and it's Bo Horvat. Like no offense to like Bo Horvat, like you're sick, dude, but like typically that you'd expect like a Johnny Hockey or like someone like that to be like
it's
headed
also
to the island.
funny the timing of it, because like every year we're at the deadline and there's all these people that are like, oh my god, I've heard rumors about this guy, and this guy to the island, at least one of them's got to go there or something like that. And it's like, this feels like the Islanders like doing like 6 weeks worth of homework like ahead of time and going into the like teacher and being like, look, I'm like way ahead of schedule. I like did all this homework. Like, here you go. And the teacher's like, okay, no one asked you to do that. Like, you didn't need to do that. Do you have your assignment for today? Like,
Right.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, I think this could work for the Islanders, which I think everyone on this podcast is going to start to dread in a couple weeks. I don't see this being a long-term solution that benefits this team going forward. Like you're still going to have to sign him, which means you're not going to be able to go out and get someone else. And I don't really know if Bo Horvat by himself is the answer to help the New York Islanders.
I mean, I'm also he's a center, right? And they're loaded down the middle already. So I don't know if they're going to move
someone's moving.
Wing. Yeah, someone's going to have to move to the wing. I do think it's worth mentioning, and my computer's slow as molasses right now, so I apologize. So I'm going to go off memory. I think Bo Horvat is like 4th in the NHL in goals right now. I mean,
you're not wrong.
Really clicking.
Yeah.
Which is terrifying because he comes to the Metro of fucking course.
Yeah, of course.
So there's that. And I apologize.
Goal scoring's a lot harder now.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He's 8th in the NHL in scoring.
I also think it's really funny, and I know I sent this to you guys yesterday, but Lou, way back when, traded the 9th overall pick to the Canucks for Corey Schneider, which we all love to laugh about. But 10 years later, he acquires the player the Canucks selected with that pick in Bo Horvat, and Schneider now plays for the Islanders.
It's big cigar in mouth, like gotcha vibes.
Yeah. No, it is on paper, but like,
but also like,
but like you did
even,
just give up
like,
a blue chip, like a good player, and like a draft pick.
And also, there's no gotcha involved in having Corey Schneider. Like,
did you find that on your own, or did you hear that somewhere?
That I sent it to you guys yesterday. I forget who shared it. It was Puck Empire NHL discussion or something like that.
It's actually pretty funny. But of course, the Metro gets even better, and of course, he's gonna play well. I mean, the Islanders are gonna make a push. I just don't know if the push will be enough. Stay tuned to see what the Caps and Pens will do, because they both kind of look shitty really recently. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I will say this. Like, I mean, this is a team that if you're a non-Islanders Metro fan, you don't want this team to get any better, because right now they're kind of starting to put those pieces together to the point where you go, okay, if Sorokin really gets hot in the playoffs, this could be a problem.
They probably have, and I might catch some heat for this. They probably have, beside maybe like Boston, maybe the Caps, I don't know, like top 3 goalie tandem in the NHL.
I would say so.
they're
Either
both
one of those
sick.
guys could win playoff games.
Yeah, it's a very reliable one.
But yeah, Bo Horvat over to the island. So the real question, which team is he playing on in the All-Star game?
That's a good question.
It's actually hysterical if you think
Yeah.
about it, because they're gonna have too many on the Metro if they make him Metro, but he won't be playing. He'll still be wearing a Canucks logo on his shoulder if he goes
Right.
Pacific.
I would think he plays Canucks. I would think he
You
finishes
think?
it out there. There was I think Wyshynski or somebody else. Hopefully, I'm not missourcing this one, but somebody tweeted an example of another guy that recently got traded, like right before the deadline, was like, well, this guy ended up playing for the team he just got traded away from. So maybe they'll look to that as like the predecessor for it.
I feel like if this happened to me, like I got dealt right before the All-Star break and I was going, I'd be like, I'm sorry, I'm not doing the All-Star game anymore. I'm gonna go find like somewhere to live. in the
Yeah,
new
that's
city
true
that I'm
too.
going
Like,
to.
Out, yeah.
Yeah, I'd be kind of like, can I like not go to this?
The other thing I was just looking at, it'd be weird if the Islanders played like today or tomorrow and he like suited up and like played a game in an Isles uniform, then went to the All-Star game
Right.
and played it in a Canucks uniform. That's not the case. They don't play until after the All-Star game. So maybe there is a possibility he still wears the Canucks sweater. But anyways, that's our Bo Horvat thoughts. Next up, we got NHL legend Bobby Hull, who passed away over the weekend at age 84. He's widely regarded as one of the greatest players of all time. The blonde hair, the skating speed, and end-to-end rushes, holds a ton of Blackhawks records, and was also known as the Golden Jet. So rest in peace to Bobby Hull.
Yep.
Worth noting, good hockey player, bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Bad
feel like
guy.
that was all over the internet, so I
Yeah.
feel like we kind of have to mention that. Like,
Yeah, that's the disclaimer that comes with that one.
I don't think we need to mention the off the ice stuff ourselves, but if you're interested, you can do your own research on that.
Wikipedia exists for a reason.
Yeah, you'll
Sorry, we lost you there for a second. Yeah. I mean, this is like a player though that like when the Russians first came over to play in like the Summit series and the series before that, I forget what it was called. Like this is the player that they were like actually afraid of. Like they would have 5 guys on the ice whose sole purpose was to just shadow Bobby Hull. Guy revolutionized the slap shot too.
Yeah, he did. People forget. Next up, this one's actually pretty funny, and I know I sent this to you guys on Instagram the other day. So the Australian national hockey team recently beat the national team for South Africa by a score of 28-0 to move on to the semifinals of the D3 World Junior Tournament. I don't think I've ever, not even in like NHL on like rookie mode, seen 28-0 in a score of a hockey game.
Yeah, shout out the Hockey Ruse, man. That's a ass thumping they laid on him.
the Ice Ruse.
The Ice
Yep.
Ruse, I like that.
Awesome name. The Oilers, they had an EBUG come in. Matt Berlin, the Oilers EBUG saved the only shot he faced as he saw out Edmonton's 7-3 win on Saturday. Oilers coach Jay Woodcroft told reporters after the game that it was the players' idea to give Berlin some time between the pipes. Quote, first of all, it came from the players, he said. We talked about it on the bench. We wanted to make sure we did it in a respectful way, but we just wanted to give somebody an opportunity that they'll remember the rest of their lives. I was proud of our team that they came to that decision. Really cool move here by the Oilers. I think that's awesome.
So did both guys get hurt though, or like what?
I think Stuart Skinner couldn't dress as the backup. I think he was either hurt or sick or something else was going on. I'm not really sure. So they called this guy in to be the backup. And I guess with like 2 minutes to go, they put him in. But
Oh, okay.
A plus last name for being a goalie. I mean, I can just like the mask designs,
Berlin.
the nickname Berlin Wall just writes
Wall,
itself.
yep.
Yeah.
I don't think it gets much better than that, but pretty cool story there for the Oilers. All right, when we're going to move on to our discussion segment, but before we do, I think Nick has a word from our sponsor, Kane Footwear.
Yeah, so whatever Stuart Skinner was up to yesterday, he's probably going to need some downtime today to recover, and he's probably going to be wearing Kane footwear when he does that because the Kane Revive is changing the way you work out and recover with their bounce back foam made from sugar cane to give you the most comfortable shoe you will ever own. Head to the link in our bio to get your pair today.
Breaking news, just not actually, but sort of. Connor McDavid just got his NHL 23 rating bumped to 97 overall. He is the first player in over a decade to have a 97 overall rating.
Wow.
Anyone want to guess who the last one was? It's got to be Sidorobi. I actually don't know the answer to this.
I feel like that's
10 years ago, it'd be 2013. Sid was in concussion life.
Yeah.
Had to.
They never gave Ovi a 97.
I don't think he ever got above like a 94.
Could it have been like Stamkos or something like that?
That might.
Or like I wanted to say like Doughty for some dumbass reason.
I was gonna say like, well, until you said the year, I was gonna say like, could it have been like Yager in like the early 2000s or something? But if it's 2013, no way.
Oh, they said over a decade, so I don't know what that technically
True.
would mean,
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
yeah.
It could be 19 years because they didn't say
True.
2 decades.
would love someone to fact check us on that. That'd be
Mhm,
great.
mhm.
All right, Carey Price. Obviously, you guys know he hasn't really been on the ice ever since that Stanley Cup final against the Lightning. Been dealing with a bunch of injuries and some off-ice personal issues. While him and his family are reported to be moving back to British Columbia after the season, the family is also selling their home in Montreal. It is widely believed that this is probably it for CP31. Where do you rank him in terms of like being a Hall of Famer or maybe even on the all-time goalie list?
I definitely think he's a Hall of Famer. I don't think you can discount what he's come up with. 2014 gold medal, 2016 World Cup of Hockey, and then 2015 Jennings, Vezina, Lindsay, and Hart.
Yeah, not bad company, eh?
To win a Hart as a goalie is pretty awesome.
Pretty
that's
insane.
that's always a really cool thing, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean he went to the Stanley Cup. He didn't win,
Yeah.
but it wasn't his fault he didn't
And
win.
it's so weird that he went to the Stanley Cup the last year of his career. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't like when he was in his prime.
And
right?
no
He did
one
it-
Was
thought,
there a
no one
conference
knew at the
finals
time
run
it
in
was
there?
his last year either.
Yeah, they played the Rangers. Remember, Kreider took him out, and then they
That's
ended up
right.
that. And
Yeah.
the Habs fans always swear like we would have beaten the Rangers and
That's
played
right.
the Kings had that not happened.
Or beating the Devils, right? Or
Wasn't
Yeah,
that when the
the
backup
Devils, yeah.
that was Dustin Tokarski, right?
I think so.
It was either
yeah.
that or Halak, one of the
Yeah.
two. I do think it's worth noting Carey Price finished, if this is it for him, 22nd all-time on careers win. He had, let's see here, 361 career wins. To put it in perspective, he ranks 22nd. Right behind him is Evgeny Nabokov, and right in front of him is Jonathan Quick.
Okay.
Interesting.
Active
I feel like
goaltender.
the numbers here probably aren't going to reflect how good this guy actually was in his prime.
And like how much he meant to that like organization,
Yeah.
you know, like that you can't really assign a number to something like that.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about it before, like playing goalie for the Canadians. It's like quarterback for the Cowboys or shortstop
Yeah.
for the Yankees. It's
So much pressure.
It's a big deal.
A couple other interesting facts just to kind of put things in perspective. When you look at goals against average for goaltenders who had a minimum of at least 250 career starts, he ranks 42nd all time. He's right there with, here's a name from the past, David Abisher.
Wow.
Right there.
I'm a huge Abisher guy.
He
I
was
love
awesome.
David Abisher.
Abisher, Roberto Luongo, and Tim Thomas all finished right there with Carey Price in terms of goals against average over the course of their career.
It's interesting because two of those guys, well, including Carey Price. Two of those guys, in my opinion, are Hall of Famers, and the other two are not.
Yeah. No
Yeah,
brainer.
I would agree with that. I'm just trying to see if there's any other like weird, quirky facts as to who he relates to. Oh, so same thing applies. 250 minimum games played. He ranks 17th all time in terms of save percentage, with a minimum of 250 starts. He's right behind Pekka Rinne, and this one's kind of wild. He is right in front of Robin Lehner and Connor Hellebuck.
Wow.
Interesting. So
For now.
yeah, I think he's definitely a Hall of Famer. It sucks he never got a cup, right? You think a guy he reminds me so much of Lundqvist in terms of like they were the two best goalies in the world for what, 10 years from like
Pretty much
08 to 2018, and
yeah.
they just never ended up getting one. And they always, both those goalies had like decent teams, but if you really think about it, like neither of those teams ever had like a perennial offensive weapon.
Right. But both of those guys did have a ton of international success. Lundqvist has Olympic gold, I think, from 06.
Yep. Indeed he does. But if that is it for Carey, I mean, hats off, man. That's a hell of a
career. What a career.
All right. We're skipping the gambling segment for this episode. Sorry, Brendan. Saw him at the gym this morning, was chilling in the sauna, and he just walks in, he's like, "What's up, dude?" And I was like, "What?" Yeah, he's like, startup life. I gotta be here in the morning instead of the afternoon. I said, "Nice." So shout out to Sharp Rank and Brendan for always being the homie. Let's move on to some injuries. Austin Matthews, he will be out at least 3 weeks as he recovers from a knee sprain he suffered against New York. That's not good news for the Leafs. So, I mean, he gets a week buffer here with the All-Star break, so that's nice.
I was gonna say it like if you're gonna have this happen, excellent timing.
How many of these injuries do you hear about near the All-Star break that you buy?
I think like that one I buy because he's out for 3 weeks.
Fair.
If it's like the guys that are missing like 2 games before, a couple games after, you're probably like, okay, that might be load management, but you never know. It's the NHL, you could be deathly injured or not, and they'll never tell you.
It's pretty accurate. The Vancouver Canucks, they extended first-year forward Andrei Kuzmenko on a 2-year, $11 million deal. Let's get to some trade rumors. The New Jersey Devils are expected to be the front runners to land Timo Meier. I mean, I know the Rangers are always going to be in the mix. The Leafs have been thrown in there. From what I've read in terms of like tweets from reporters and just notable accounts, it's pretty much all but done that Timo Meier is going to be a Devil.
I think so. I mean, we kind of went through this last year with him and Hurdle. We've gone through that the 2 years prior. It just seems for whatever reason, those guys don't necessarily want to leave San Jose for the offers they've gotten in the past.
I wonder why. California, the ocean.
Yeah. Versus Newark, New Jersey.
I can't think of a single reason why you wouldn't want to make that change.
Worst train station in America.
I do think that he will go this year, though. I think he's going to go somewhere. I know that the Leafs are literally looking at this as a rental. I know there's been a ton of tweets saying that they would trade for him and then try and flip him in the summer. But yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
In a weird way, like, I know this is crazy because I don't want the Metro to get any better, obviously, but I don't really want him to go to the Leafs. If it's only between those teams, I'd rather it be the Devils. I just think that would be cooler. Like,
I think he would stay a Devil.
Yeah, which also I don't want that, but like I'm thinking like from a team perspective. Like if I'm a Devils fan, I want that really badly. Like, I mean, I'm a big Timo guy. I would definitely want that guy in my team.
Absolutely. Dude's a stud.
I would want that guy in my Timo.
I can't believe I just heard that. Yeah.
God damn it.
I can't believe you both actually laughed at that. Come on.
That
you can't be egging me on with that bullshit.
Yeah, it's good. I think worth noting, if Timo does end up going to the Devils, they will have 2 players that are top 5 in the league in shots on goal. Jack Hughes. Sog Army. Jack Hughes and Timo Meier, both top 5.
They will also have 3 players from Switzerland in Jonas Siegenthaler, bless you, Timo Meier, and Nico Hischier.
And I know Dougie Hamilton's somewhere up there in Sog Army world. I don't know exactly where he ranks. I don't feel like looking it up. I'm tired.
In shots allowed through him?
No, well, yes, but the dude shoots a fucking ton. I mean, especially for a D-man, it's wild.
Yeah, he does.
Dylan Larkin, he's looking for an 8-year deal at $9 million per from the Red Wings. I know we said this last week where we had a little debate about what he's worth. Nick, maybe you're on board with this. I am not on board with this, but I do know someone would pay him that.
I don't think he's going to get this from the Wings.
No.
I know last week I was saying I think he's probably worth this money. I think he can find it somewhere else. I just don't think he's going to get it from the Wings. I don't want him to leave that team, though.
Catch the Wings calling Jacob Vrana after Dylan Larkin leaves and being like, "Hey,
how you doing?"
we never meant we never meant anything bad. We love you.
Yeah, really. I don't think. I mean, I know someone would give him 9, but if you're a competitive team and you're paying Dylan Larkin 9, I don't see it. Personally.
8 by 9 is tough.
That's
that is a lot of money for a long time.
It's like rarely a contract that you're coming out on the good side of at the end of that. Like,
no, it's
rarely.
Yeah, front half for the team, back half for the player. But I mean, are you banking on getting 1 cup in those 9 years?
I don't know. I mean, the other thing with Stevie Y, you got to think to yourself, like, you know, Stamkos never ever took that much. I mean, he could have made a lot more money, I guess is what I'm saying. Even Hedman could have made a ton more money than he did. You know, he's coming from the Tampa world where he built a dynasty, and he did it because the guys didn't, you know, take him to the absolute clink with you know, theft in terms of contracts. So,
yeah. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I wonder if we're going to see like an 8 by 8 at some point at the end of this.
Seems a little more fair in my opinion.
Yeah.
The Flames, they're looking to add a scoring forward before the deadline. I mean, personally, all these Timo Meier rumors, I mean, I guess you could throw him at any team, but I think he would fit in with Calgary.
Ladies and gentlemen, how would you like Anthony Mantha?
Yeah.
So what's going on with that?
Here's the thing. If there's anyone from Caps Twitter that is listening right now, they're going to absolutely roast me for this one. But I would rather us trade Mantha than Eller at the moment.
Oh, I'm 100% on board with that because you're getting so much more in return. It's something you can actually use in return.
Potentially,
Yeah.
But
Plus,
it's more of just
don't
like
trade centers.
But my fuel for this one is something that I just don't think most of Caps Twitter understands. I get the vibe that like a lot of these Caps Twitter folks, God bless them all, it's a younger crowd. It's like a lot of, like, no disrespect to them, but it's a lot of them are really like tunnel vision. Like, we have to have the best players on our team, and that's what matters the most. Whereas it's like, to me, there's so many other layers here, and like, Lars Eller, as brutal as he can be sometimes, yes, I've seen all the plays that everyone's upset about where it's like, oh my God, he looks crazy out here. It's like, yeah, sometimes he does. I get it. I understand. But and then they're like, oh my God, why is he scratching Mantha? Like, Laviolette is insane, like blah, 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 blah. First of all, Mantha has been pretty brutal himself all season long, painfully inconsistent.
Narcoleptic.
Yes.
Oh my
Sleepy as fuck out there.
Yeah.
And B, this is my main point here that no one else seems to really be grasping. Locker room.
Yeah.
I get the vibe, and this is all speculation, by the way, so I could be wrong, but I get the vibe that trading Anthony Mantha would not bother that many people in the locker room. Like, I don't, you know, when I see these
like
videos,
trading Eller would.
That would hurt for a lot of the
he was on the cup team, right?
Yeah.
Scored the winning goal.
There you go.
That would hurt for a lot of the biggest pieces on our team. And that's not nothing. Like, it's like that can really like put a damper in things if you trade a guy that like everybody loves. Like, that could be just as bad for your chances of winning a cup as like not doing the trade in the first place because he's not good or whatever. Like, just, it's something to think about. And that's my stance on it.
No, I think that's a great point. I also think, you know, you're looking at a player who was brought in that Jacob Vrana trade to score goals and has not done that.
Has not scored.
I'm
goals.
Okay with the Anthony Mantha experiment being over.
We still won that trade. We got absolutely the better end of the deal in that trade, as you and I both said when that trade went down. And Caps Twitter
just from a
was
games
in
played,
flames,
just from a games played perspective, like, Brana has played what, like 30 games for the Red Wings or
Right.
something like that.
Not many. Yeah. I mean,
No, I mean,
it,
Mantha could get top 6 minutes in Vancouver.
And I think he could succeed somewhere. He's a good player. He should be a good player. He's got all the makings of a good hockey player. He just isn't for us for whatever
what if he
reason.
went back to Detroit? Just think of that.
All right, Mantha for Larkin, 1-for-1.
Yo.
Before I parlay this conversation into a State of the Union, Mac, I have to ask this question. I've been holding my tongue the last 2 minutes you've been talking. So you're referencing a younger crowd. Would you categorize yourself as said younger crowd since you're the youngest person on this podcast? Or what is younger crowd?
I think there's just a lot of teenagers on Caps Twitter is what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to any of them because they're all good people and I've come to have a rapport with some of them, but it's just one of those
things. But you have to let them know when they're being stupid.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like I don't want to play the fucking old man card when I'm literally 24 years old, but like I've seen more Caps games than you. Like I've factually seen more Caps games.
I think that, and I think the way I sort of look at it is I was like, I've been through so much more heartbreak than you could. And it's not like a ball stacking contest where it's like, oh, I've suffered more, so that means I'm more correct. It's like,
and I'm not
I've seen how this team
get
can
on
hurt
my fucking
me.
soapbox and preach either. I don't want to be that guy. I just like sometimes I just feel like I'm screaming into the void when I'm trying to like explain. They're all like, I can't understand why like we won't scratch Eller or why we scratch Mantha or like, and I'm like, I'm trying to calmly explain this to you. And they either just like don't even reply or like I get like roasted and I'm like, okay, well,
they just don't firmly grasp it.
Literally. Yeah. firmly
grasp it.
And we will now parlay that into Capitals State of the Union. I'll let you gentlemen take it away.
So to be fair, Anthony Mantha is not the only narcoleptic hockey player on the Washington Capitals right now. I know it's about to be the All-Star break, but holy shit, like that Leafs game, they really all were like, I don't know. It'd be kind of fine if we missed the playoffs.
I don't really feel like it.
We haven't had a long off season in a while. Like that was the vibe I was getting from watching that game. Like I was like, do you guys even want to be good? Doesn't really look like it.
It's an A+ Caps like Sunday weekend, mid-afternoon, early evening.
We're
like
one of
game.
two NHL games, so everybody who cares about hockey is watching because they're like, well, there's nothing else on besides football. Bad.
And that wasn't even that good to watch.
No, that first one was terrible. Also, one good thing that came from that game, Nicholas Backstrom, elite sniper.
Yes.
That was a rip. So I was happy to see him get on the board. That was his first goal since being back, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so it's good to see him get that one out of the way. Hopefully, maybe he can pot one tonight against the Blue Jackets.
What's the score of that game?
2-1 Capitals after one as we are speaking at the moment.
I like betting the over on that.
A lot of people had that over tonight.
It's definitely looking good. I will chalk that Caps loss up to the fact that 99 was in the building for the Leafs and just doing Ontario,
which by the way, his comments on the Capitals broadcast with Joby and Locker were very sweet, honestly.
They were.
He said a lot of very kind words about Ovechkin and he's a class act, Gretzky is, so which is no surprise to anyone. But what else do we have to talk about the Caps here? A couple more notes.
Beat the Pens. We were at that.
I was going to say, there's a game I went to recently that actually went pretty well. Harry and I were very fortunate to get tickets from your dad for that. So we just want to say a huge shout out and thank you to Mike Vogel once again. And we definitely have a gift coming his way.
Thank you very much.
Nice.
Mike, that was awesome. Also shout out to Mike Cosgrove.
Yep.
We met a fan at the game.
Oh, yeah.
His name was Mike Cosgrove from Reisterstown, Maryland, where I grew up. So that was pretty cool. I know I got his friend's name, but I didn't get his friend's contact info. So I am now forgetting said name. We may have also indulged in some pregame margaritas that would restrict me from having my fullest potential memory of the game.
My
It's the
brain
salt
was
air.
full of margaritas and didn't have any more room for names. So
It's the salt air that does it.
yeah,
Oh, they're so good.
they were so good.
Mac, I got a quesadilla there too, and it was absolutely fire.
Oh, that sounds good. Okay, one last thing I want to say about the Caps. Ovi's actually playing the All-Star game this year.
He is.
So that should be somewhat fun. I think he was gonna actually do it last year, and he got like COVID right beforehand
Right.
too, or something. So, but anyway, that should be fun. I'm
Dude,
hoping. I mean, this is my friend. My friend just asked me the other day. He's like, "How are the Caps doing?" And I gave him the old, like, we're at the All-Star break. So, we're going to learn a lot about what this team is about in the next, like, 3 weeks. I feel like they always say, like, first couple weeks back right after the break are, like, really when it's go time and, like, what is this team made of? So I will be very interested to see how this goes. I think our first game after the break is against the Bruins. So.
It is a Saturday 3 p.m. game on the road in Boston.
But
there is no chance you win that game.
The house on the Bruins, like triple puck line, like Bruins
There's
by
no
like
chance
3
you win that
goals,
game.
Like Bruins minus 6.5. Like just do it now.
Yep. There should literally be like World Juniors lines on that, like Canada versus Latvia type shit.
Also, I'm a complete idiot. His name's not Mike Cosgrove. That's a guy I used to play hockey with. His name's Ryan Cosgrove. So Ryan, if you're listening, I apologize. I'm bad with 4-letter first names when I have
that's close
beforehand. It was close enough. Bruins day games. That's Matt Murley's number one rule. Always hammer that. So no offense, boys. I'll be against you guys on that.
Oh no, I'm saying it now. Yeah.
Humongous L.
Yeah, like it might be an even a L7 too.
It's like when I called the Devils beating the Pens. Granted, it took a little bit extra work, and it wasn't as easy as I thought.
I definitely didn't almost lose like $4,000 on that, but no, I'm just kidding.
You won $4,000 on there. You go.
Yeah, exactly.
Moving on to the Pens, I don't have a lot. I'll make this quick. This team is horrible. They're just a bad hockey team. Like, we have no goaltending. Our starting goaltender is like literally packaged in a box that just says fragile in giant letters on the front. For Gile,
must be Italian.
For Gile, for those who know what I'm talking about or referencing. And then
if you don't, you're too young. Go watch the damn movie.
Exactly. Casey DeSmith, I don't know what the fuck is going on. He's bad. Tokarski's not going to get a start. So here's my proposal. The Canucks are sellers. There's a name on the block.
There is a name on the block.
And I think it's time that the Hall of Fame goaltender that is our general manager should get his head out of his ass and recognize that we don't have a backup goalie and we need a backup goalie. And Vancouver has a backup goalie and their general manager used to be our general manager. So maybe that we should do something to just make Thatcher Demko a Pittsburgh Penguin. And
we're not talking about Spencer Martin?
Yeah, no. Wait. I thought before you started talking about goalies, I thought you wanted like Brock Besser or something.
I want Demko. We need Demko because Jara is going to get hurt again.
I'm sorry. You think Demko is the answer to the Penguins' problems?
If you're looking for health, I don't think he's the best goaltender.
Yeah, he's going to get there and do what Jari's doing. He's going to play 2 games, miss the next 10.
Fuck you guys. I don't even know why I bring this up. I don't listen. I saw the rumor float out there, right? Elliot Friedman, 32 Thoughts. He's listed names. Buffalo's in the market. Pittsburgh should be in the market. I'd be down to get Thatcher. I'm just saying.
I have a really bad feeling in my brain of a very long tenured and championship winning goaltender from the West Coast that I could just see the Penguins finding some way to weasel away from his club. 2 Stanley Cups.
2 Stanley.
Don't say Jonathan Quick.
I just have this weird vision in my head of
what?
Yep.
You think the Pens would get Quick?
I think if anyone could pull Quick away from his
the Kings are going to make the playoffs.
They're not going to get. They're kind of good, aren't they? Although
I don't think, and they only have Cal Peterson. Otherwise, they're not. Unless they blow up, unless they literally
they would have to fall. I will say that they would have to fall off a little bit.
That's
for that
an
to
interesting take. I don't hate it, but I don't know how much I buy it. But I'm on board with it. I thought you were gonna say like Grubauer or something. I was like,
No, and I thought about them for that fit earlier. I feel like Gruby's kind of like dipped off a little bit. Like I feel like maybe like the number one status probably isn't there anymore.
Well,
yeah.
Martin Jones has been a fiend.
I don't want Martin Jones. I don't want him. I've had it. I've been down that road once or twice. I don't need that. I have ripped Martin Jones far too much on this show.
He wasn't the Sharks goalie when you guys beat them in the Cup final, right?
He was.
He was?
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't Niemi?
Nope.
Oh, wow.
Martin Jones. Last note, since we're doing backup goalie drama, because that's always fun. This is all you need to know about the Pittsburgh Penguins. Their third line is Brock McGinn, Jeff Carter, and Teddy Bluger. That third line has combined for 0 points in the last 11 games. 11 games. Our third line doesn't have a point. That's all I have to say. Like, you can't win like that. That's just not going to happen. They just dropped brutal game 6-4 to the Sharks. They lose in the shootout 3-2 to the Caps. They ended up somehow beating the Panthers 7-6 prior to that. The upcoming schedule is pretty interesting after the All-Star break. Quick little cup of coffee with Nate Dogg coming to Pitt, and then you do your California trip. They got the Ducks, they got the Kings, and they got the Sharks. So we'll see how it all unfolds, but this team is abysmal at the moment, and there needs to be a change that happens, or something's got to change. I don't know. I don't want Sully gone. I'll put that out there. I do want Ron Hextall gone. I will also put that out there.
Yeah,
he stinks.
If I was a Penguins fan, I would probably be saying the same thing.
How do you hire a Flyers Hall of Famer to be that's an inside job?
We know what the coaching inside job was because Mac and I had to live through it. But
yeah, we're not.
That was still come on, DC. Like we've got the FBI, and you can still get away with a sting operation like that. Like really?
Oh man, yeah. So yeah, it's not a good time to be a Pens fan. Kind of sucks, but that about wraps it up for my rants. You guys got anything else that's grinding your gears before we wrap up therapy?
I want to talk about Jack Eichel for a second, because this guy has 2 points in his last 10 games.
He is on the absolute hot seat amongst the Vegas-born fan base.
Yeah,
their most expensive player is not playing very expensive.
I mean, they've just had it so hard for so long,
They've suffered enough.
Exactly.
Let them free.
Exactly. I don't know. I mean, that's not why that guy was brought there. So that's a big concern if you're a Knights fan.
They've fallen off here a little bit.
Big time.
So Logan Thompson, Mac, your boy, he's not putting up those insane numbers.
I know. He had a real hot start at the beginning of the season, and he is definitely kind of petered out. Honestly, Aiden Hill has been playing better than him in the last 10 or so games, maybe more. So yeah, I don't know what's going on there.
Well, we hope everybody enjoys the All-Star break. We will be back next week. Mac, you got a note?
I got one more note before we go. I just want to say a big hats off and a big congratulations to a former guest of the podcast, Samantha Pell.
Yep.
Announced that she is covering her last game as Capitals beat writer for the Post tonight while we're recording this in Columbus. So just wanted to say congrats to her for whatever's next. We wish her the best of luck. She has done an excellent job covering the Capitals. I can't tell you how many times I go on Twitter trying to figure out if I'm betting the Caps or if I'm betting something involving them. Always go to her page to check the lines, check the latest, see what's going on with them, see who's out, see who's in. I've just really enjoyed her coverage, and she was great on our show too. So hats off to her, and we wish you the best of luck in whatever's next.
Absolutely.
One of the best in the biz for sure.
Absolutely. 100%.
Frank Saravelli gave her a shout out. That's a big name. I mean, you get that guy giving you some praise. That's pretty cool. So definitely shout out to Samantha.
Also happy for her. She mentioned in her little sign off that she's excited to be able to go to some hockey games and not have a deadline involved. So that'll be cool for her.
Oh, I'm sure. Also, last note before we go, shout out to our boy, the Daily Over, for the merch. Cole, we appreciate it. Yours is coming shortly from us. Boys, I'll be sending you your gear here shortly. I got this big box that says Fragile right behind me. So
hell yeah.
That will be shipping anytime now. But definitely go follow the Daily Over on Twitter. for your daily dose of NHL over picks. He's a great follow, fellow friend of the program. Always enjoy having him on. All right, everybody, that just about wraps up episode 155. Enjoy the All-Star break. We'll be back with you next week and maybe even give you a little bit of Super Bowl picks before the big game the following week. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We appreciate it. And without further ado,
Class dismissed.